In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all. The title of this video is, do you know why do you forget to remember important things in your life, important matters? Now in this video I will show, brothers and sisters, by the guidance of the Quran, the cause of forgetfulness. Why do we forget remembering matters? And the cure for this, from the guidance of the Quran, the last revelation of Allah got to people. Now, as an introduction to this video, forgetfulness is a huge problem. And what happens is that the person forgets the important matters in life. And on top of these matters is him forgetting the remembrance of Allah God Almighty, and forgetting what Allah God wants from him. And also, as the signs of forgetfulness is that, for example, when you want to concentrate on studying, you open a page and you want to read the page or understand the page. What happens is that you spend hours and you cannot finish 2 lines in the page, inability to concentrate. And also, for example, that you want to go and finish a certain errand, or you want to get something which is important. What happens is that you go out and you go on the drive, and when you come back you forget that important item. So this just 3 examples of forgetfulness, but the examples are plenty, and it's a problem, it's a huge problem, because your life becomes kind of disoriented, and it wastes your time, your effort, your concentration, your productivity decreases so much. So this is just a summary of the problem. Now, how to solve it? How to cure this problem of forgetfulness? Now, if we go to the Quran, the book of guidance that Allah God Almighty sent down, the last revelation to people, and in it we find that Allah God Almighty teaches us the cause of forgetfulness. He teaches us why people forget matters in one verse in the Quran, in one verse, which is verse number 63 of chapter 18 of the Quran, which reads, the translation is the following. He said, do you remember when we betook ourselves to the rock? I indeed forget the fish. None but Satan made me forget to remember it. It took its course in the sea in a strange way. Now, how can we learn from this Quranic verse the cause of forgetfulness? Now, the background to this verse is that Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, he took a journey with a companion of his. And on the journey, here Allah states a certain kind of certain aspect of the journey, is that the companion of Prophet Moses, peace upon him, he forgot the fish, their lunch or their food on the journey. And on a journey, food and drink is a very important matter in a journey. It's very important, of paramount importance. So the companion of Prophet Moses, he forgot the fish, forgot the food. And what he said is that, he said that none but Satan made me forget it. So he said that the reason that he forgot this important item is Satan. So we learn from this verse is that Satan is the sole reason why you forget matters. That is the clear, straightforward answer from the Quran. Now the next question is that, what is the mechanism? How does Satan make me forget matters, important matters? Now, in order to answer this question, we need to understand how does Satan affect each and every one of us. As a prerequisite to understanding the mechanism on how Satan makes us forget matters, we need to understand how does Satan affect each and every one of us. And brothers and sisters, the only book on the face of the earth which teaches this is the Quran. The Quran is the only book on the face of the earth which teaches us how does Satan affect each and every one of us. And this is a fact that will change the world. If people really understood how does Satan affect them, it will change the world. Because they will realize that Satan is our common enemy. He's the common enemy for all people. And they will realize that Satan is the one that causes us pain and hardship and causes us to kill each other, and he causes us to be far away from the truth. Now, Allah Almighty teaches us how does Satan affect each and every one of us from the Quran in 2 verses. The first verse is verse number 4 of chapter 114 of the Quran, which states, "From the evil of the whisperer who hides." From the evil of the whisperer who hides. So here Allah Almighty is telling us that our companion devil, and we can learn from the Quran that each and every one of us has a companion devil. That is, when you are born, there is a devil assigned to you, and it's a companion for you in your earthly journey. And he will only leave you when you die. And Allah is telling us that this companion devil, he whispers to us, meaning he talks to us. But at the same time he hides from us, meaning that he doesn't want you to feel his presence. He hides away from you. Now the question arises, how can this companion devil talk to me and at the same time hide from me? Now the only way that he accomplishes this, or he can accomplish this, is if he matches his voice to the one you think with. Now each and every one of us, when he thinks quietly to himself, he hears his voice, the one he talks with, in his mind. Now what Satan does, that he matches his voice with regards to tone, frequency, the languages you know, the style of your speech, to the one you hear in your mind. And thoughts pop up in your mind, just appear in your mind. And you think that yourself is telling you this, while actually it's a companion devil. So he puts ideas in your mind by a voice matching the one you think with. That's the first kind of information we get from the Quran. Now the second information we can find in chapter 113 verse 4, where Allah states, "And from the evil of the blowers in the knots." So here Allah is teaching us that Satan blows in the knots. This companion devil, he blows in the knots. What are the knots? The knots, if we look at the human brain, we see that the neurons in the brain, they are arranged in a kind of clusters and knots. And these clusters, or these knots of neurons, they are responsible for producing various feelings in the body. And the way they do this is that when they are stimulated, they produce chemicals. And these chemicals, they cause either the relaxation or the contraction of, for example, chest muscles. So when your chest muscles are contracted, you feel like the feeling of sadness. And when they are relaxed, you feel like happiness, the feeling of happiness. So what happens that, for example, suppose that you have a job interview tomorrow, and Satan comes to you with a voice match, the one you think with in your mind, telling you like, look, you will fail that interview, you will not have any kind of income. At the same time, when he whispers this in your mind, he stimulates neural nodes in the brain that produces tightness in the chest, a feeling of anxiety and fear. Why? Because he wants to establish the thought that he just whispered to you with. He wants to make it more believable to you. So when when there is a feeling that matches the idea, you are more inclined to believe it. Now this information, as I said, if people realize this will change the world. Because Satan is the one that whispers to us ideas to hate each other, to kill each other, ideas of lust and perverted sexual ideas, ideas of harm, to hurt ourselves and others, and blasphemy, saying about Allah what a person has no knowledge of. Now, having understood this, coming back to the topic of forgetfulness, how does Satan make you forget matters? For example, let me demonstrate this by giving examples. Suppose that you want to go and bring a certain item, a very important item to you. Now, you are driving in the car. Satan comes to you with a voice match, the one you think with, and he starts reminding you of, for example, a conversation you had with a friend yesterday, and he puts this conversation in your mind, and he starts like saying, he is asking a question, and you start answering it. He like engages you in a conversation in your mind. And you may keep hours talking to you think that you're talking to yourself, but actually you're talking to Satan. He's asking and you are answering back. So you're driving, and because your mind is engaged in all these kind of silly, unimportant matters, you forget what's important. So what Satan does is that he engages you in your mind with silly matters. For example, he puts sexual scenarios in your mind, like you are doing this is done to you, and so forth. And because you are, as I said, engaged in this, you forget what's really important. That is one example. The second example, suppose that you want to concentrate on studying something. You open the page, you start reading the lines, but Satan engages you again in silly conversations. He might remind you of a song in your mind, and you start, repeating it, sexual ideas and scenarios, and all of this. And also, Satan, when he engages you all of your day with silly matters, you forget Allah God Almighty, you forget seeking the knowledge of God, knowledge of Allah God. So, to summarize, brothers and sisters, what Satan does is that he engages you all of the day in silly matters like conversations, imaginary scenarios, sexual ideas, all of these ideas that waste your time, your effort, and as a result you forget important matters in life. So this is the cause of forgetfulness, the cause. Now what is the cure for this? Now Allah the Almighty also, out of His mercy, He teaches us the cure for forgetfulness from the Quran in 2 verses. Now in the first verse, which is verse number 200 of chapter 7 of the Quran, Allah is teaching us that when we experience a thought from Satan, we need to seek refuge in Allah. For example, the example I said, when you're driving the car, you start having these ideas about conversations, and and you hear ideas in your mind about previous conversation, sexual scenarios. Now what you need to do is to seek refuge in Allah, meaning to remember this guidance you are hearing, remember the guidance of Allah from the Quran, and remember that the thought you just experienced, not from yourself, is from your enemy who wants to waste my time and my effort. So that's the first step, to realize the source of these ideas. Now the second step, we can learn it from the Quran, from chapter 2 verse 168, where Allah is commanding us not to follow the footsteps of Satan, meaning that do not agree with what Satan is telling you. The example again, when you start hearing these thoughts in your mind, these conversations, these imaginary scenarios, just ignore them. Do not engage in them. Do not start, answering back. Ignore and don't give the ideas of Satan any importance. It takes time, it takes patience, but if you start doing this exercise, you will train your mind to ignore the ideas of Satan, and you will be more focused in your life, you will be more productive, you will be closer to Allah God Almighty, you realize the Quran is the truth, you will be happy in this life and the hereafter. So we see, brothers and sisters, the knowledge of Allah God Almighty, the Quran, and His mercy unto us. But Satan, he doesn't want you to see this mercy in the Quran. He will do so many things to drive you away from the Quran, and I see this in so many people when they comment on my videos. I see in the comments the ideas of Satan. So Satan puts these ideas in their mind with a voice match, the one they think with, and they think they are so smart, they are so clever to think in that way. But actually what they fail to realize is that what they are repeating are the ideas of Satan, who wants to drive them away from the Quran, because he doesn't want them to see this mercy and knowledge in the Quran, and he wants them to be always engaged in what he is telling them. And as I said, Satan makes them think that they are so clever to see this kind of opinions about the Quran. So what they need to do as an advice is to realize what I'm saying, and to realize that Satan is their real enemy, and to just ignore the idea of Satan and to seek knowledge from the Quran, and they will be, inshallah, God willing, guided to the path of the Almighty. And to know more details about this topic, please visit my website at www.quran-miracle.com, and you can email me at zaidquran@yahoo.com, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all.